back to my channel. It's Liesl. Today we are decorating sugar cookies. I'm showing you guys how to make royal icing. Royal icing is a type of frosting that is commonly used in sugar cookies.
I don't think you can use it in anything else. You probably could, but
it's most likely going to be used in sugar cookies. And you can use it at any thickness that you want. You can add more powdered sugar or not add as much powdered sugar to control the consistency of the frosting. And it's commonly made with egg whites. You can also make it with meringue powder. I have found that meringue powder is a little bit on the pricier side, so it's a little bit cheaper just to do egg whites. So if you guys want to see how to make this, just keep watching.
Okay, so I started off by separating out my eggs, separating the egg whites from the yolks. You don't need the yolks, so you can just throw those away. And then I was about to add the egg whites to the bowl when I realized, no, Liesl, don't be dumb. This is the paddle attachment, and you need the whisk attachment. So I went and grabbed the whisk attachment, added that on, and then I could finally put in my egg whites. I just dumped them into the bowl, and then I grabbed my vanilla, and I added about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half. I like to add a little bit more just so there's a little bit more flavor to it. The recipe only calls for 1, but I usually do like 1.5. And then I lowered it down, and I basically just mixed this until it was nice and frothy. It's going to get a little bit lighter in color, and that's how you know that it's ready to go. Then I lifted it up. I added a pinch of salt. I don't measure this, I just kind of eyeball it. Add a pinch of salt. This just helps to enhance the flavor. And then I started adding my powdered sugar. You want to just do this 1 cup at a time, mixing in between, just to make sure that there's no clumps and everything gets nice and evenly incorporated. This was my 2nd cup. And I was mixing in between. My 3rd cup. Trying not to make a mess. But on my 4th cup, I ended up making a mess. And that's completely fine, because powdered sugar is super easy to clean up. And, you know, it's fine. Baking is fun. It's supposed to be fun. So then I just scraped my bowl down really well. You want to make sure to get all of the powdered sugar off the sides. It gets kind of stuck to the sides a little bit. And so you want to make sure to scrape it really, really well. And then I lowered it down, and then I mixed this on high for 7 minutes. And as you can see, the color lightens a ton. It completely changes color to a white color. And so that's how you know that it's ready to go. This was the consistency it ended up being, which was really thick. And that's great if you're, you know, piping or doing anything like that. I wanted this to be a flooded consistency so that I could then add powdered sugar to it to thicken it as I wanted it to. So I just added water a little bit at a time, just a few tablespoons here and there, until I got it to the thickness that I wanted it to be at. And this is completely up to you. People will measure this thickness depending on seconds, which kind of sounds funny. But when you pull up the paddle attachment, however long it takes for the frosting to lay back flat from the peak that was created with the whisk is basically how thick it is. So people will say like a 5 to 6 second settlement rate is flooding consistency. So that's kind of how you know when it's ready. Then I added some food coloring. I was doing blue, and I added a decent amount of food coloring because I wanted it to be a really pretty blue color, but you don't have to add a ton. You can leave it really light. And then I basically just mixed it and added a little bit more just until I achieved the color that I wanted. I scraped the bowl down, and it was still kind of light, so I decided to add a little bit more. And then I added a little bit more water because for some reason when I added the food coloring, it thickened it up a little bit. So then I added a little bit more water just to get it back to the consistency that I wanted it to be, and then we were good to go.
we're rolling. Take 1, action.
Hey guys, so it is the next day. I was very tired last night.
And I was like, I'm not about to decorate some cookies.
So I just took the night off and I'm back and I'm rejuvenated and I'm ready to decorate some cookies. I I got my little kit here, and it has all of the stuff that I need and all of the stuff that you would need to decorate sugar cookies. So first off, we've got our sugar cookies. If you guys want me to do a video on how I make my sugar cookies, I would be happy to, so let me know down below. And the next thing is my frosting. I colored it all and I made the different consistencies. I did make it about 3 different consistencies, and I'm going to show you guys what those are. So I'm going to start off by kind of unpacking this and what is kind of on here. So I first have a washcloth. I like to keep a washcloth on hand when I'm decorating cookies with royal icing because royal icing hardens pretty quickly. It gets a crust on top of it really quick, which is good and bad. So you have to work pretty quickly with it. But I like to keep this on hand, a wet washcloth, so that I can wipe off my tips as I use them and keep them nice and clean. Then I've got a spatula, and that's self-explanatory. I've got toothpicks to help smooth out the frosting. You can also use, there's actual tools that people use for decorating sugar cookies with royal icing, but I'm not about to go out and buy that, so I use toothpicks and it works, and I've done probably thousands of sugar cookies with the toothpicks, so it's fun. Then I've got my 3 different kinds of frosting. So here I've got my flood consistency. As you can see, I wrote that on there. This is the consistency that you want it to be when you fill the base layer of your cookie. It's called flooding sugar cookies is what it's called. And basically you're just flooding the whole cookie with frosting. It's pretty self-explanatory. I also wanted to show you guys the day after because I wanted to show you. Frosting, royal icing separates as it sits. Whether you use meringue powder or if you use egg whites, it's going to separate no matter what, and that is completely natural and completely normal to happen. So all you have to do when this happens is just kind of give the bag a little massage. You're basically just going to be mixing all of that color back in. It's basically just all the egg whites separating, and it's basically just mixing the color back in to the frosting. And you can do this for like 30 seconds to a minute. It really doesn't matter. My bag is pretty full, so I can't massage it a ton. I am going to give it a good little massage. And as you can see, this frosting is pretty liquid. It's not very hard. It doesn't really have much thickness to it. It's pretty floppy. Like if I hold it like this, it's gonna flop over. So it's pretty liquidy. And so this is the perfect consistency for flooding your cookies. The second consistency I have is almost writing consistency. This one I'm going to be using for borders. This is like pretty much like buttercream frosting consistency. It's a little bit like softer than that, but you can see when I squish it, it kind of stays. So this is the medium one. And then this is what I like to call my writing consistency. This is a lot thicker, and it's pretty tough to squeeze through a tiny little tube like this. This is perfect for writing if you're writing any words on your cookies, or if you're drawing lines or anything like that and you want it to be nice and crisp. Otherwise, it might kind of start to pool out if it's too runny, and then it doesn't have like a good shape to it and no one knows what they're reading. So that's that. And then I also have some extra tips here that I'm going to show you guys some different border techniques for sugar cookies. So, and then this is just extra frosting that I had that didn't fit in my bags, and I'm sure I'll use it. So I'm going to zoom you guys in, and we're going to get started. So what I'm going to start off with is I'm going to take my cookies, and I'm going to lay them out, and I'm going to try to make it so that you guys can see. And I am decorating these as a thank you to some of our neighbors. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to show you guys how to flood sugar cookies. So I'm just massaging my bag a little bit more, making sure all that color is nice and incorporated, and we'll have a nice even consistency and color. And what I'm going to start off with is I put this in a bag without a tip because flooding doesn't really matter. You're just basically you're going to draw a line around the edge of your cookie, leave it for 30 seconds, and then you're going to fill it in. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start off by drawing an outline around my cookie. And this doesn't have to be super thick or anything. You're basically outlining the area that you're going to fill with frosting. And remember how I told you that royal icing hardens pretty quick and forms that kind of outer crusty shell on it? That is what we're working with. Then we're gonna let these sit for about 30 seconds and let them start to harden on the edges. So what I'm gonna do, you don't have to, there's no rhyme or reason to this really. You just fill in the empty space. And you're going to smooth this out so it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, I'm gonna set my bag aside. And now I'm gonna take my toothpick and you're just gonna kind of push the frosting towards the edges. You don't wanna push it too much that it's gonna overflow your dam, but you wanna make sure that it meets the edges and the frosting is generally even across the whole cookie. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys some borders and some fun ways to write with frosting. So I'm going to show you guys a few different tips that I like to use for borders. This one is a number 8 tip from DecoPack. That is a brand of cake decorating supplies. This one, the lower numbers are circles. So 1 through, I want to say like 12 maybe, is circles. And the bigger the number, the wider the circle gets. You can do lots of different things with a circle tip. You can just do dots, like that. You can also connect the dots with what I like to call a bubble border. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but that's what I've always called it. So you basically angle it, squeeze, and let go. And then squeeze, and let go. And this way, you kind of connect the dots and it makes it look kind of like pearls or beads. Next up, I'm using what's called a number 22 tip. This one has spikes. This is going to create a really, really pretty design on your frosting. So if we did the same thing as the other one and did just dots, that's what that would look like. Now if we did this connected one, you'd go like this and let go. And kind of connect them like that. The last one is this tip, and this is a number 70 tip. This one is most commonly used for leaves, and because of the shape, it makes a really good leaf shape. But you can also use it for borders, so I'm going to show you both. So this one, if you're going to do leaves, you would squeeze and let go. And then squeeze and let go. And it makes kind of a leaf shape. If you wanted to kind of make it look more realistic, you can add and like kind of go like that as you go out. It adds more of like a texture to it. And if the frosting was a little bit thicker, it would leave those lines, obviously. Another one is to do just a border with it, like this one and that one. So you just go up and down, kind of like that. Cool, huh? Now I'm going to show you guys how I like to write. I like to write in cursive, but you can write in print, so I'll show you guys both. There's tons of different ways you can do this, but this is how a couple ways that I like to do it. So I'll start off like this, loop it around, go up and down, and that's my H. Kind of like that. Obviously, you know, it's not perfect, but that's fine. And so that's how I like to do my writing. Okay, so I am here.
These are completely dry. JK, they're not. They've been under a lid.
So they're actually still kind of soft, but they're dry enough to do borders. Writing and frosting can be a little bit tricky, but if you keep your hand really steady
and keep the amount of pressure that you're applying to the bag steady, then you'll be fine. Another trick I forgot to mention is don't squeeze your frosting bag from the top like this. A lot of people do this and squeeze from up here. This tires out your hand really quickly, and it doesn't allow the right pressure for how much frosting is actually coming out here, because you're not going to be squeezing all of this frosting out of the tube at once. You're really only squeezing a little bit of frosting out. So if you go about halfway down the bag and twist it, that kind of cuts off this frosting so that all you're doing is managing this amount. And then I pinch this with my thumb and index finger, and then all I'm doing is controlling how much this frosting is coming out. Ta-da! Like so. So that is everything I have for you guys today. If you recreate these, make sure to tag me at Little Liesl Creations, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!